So YouTube says that I am live. I'm going to real quick open up the camera management software to see if it adjusts the lighting at all. See if I'm overexposed. I mean, I know I'm not exposed. Nope, seems like that's as good as she gets. Hello, everybody. This is Barbara Benson. I am an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make videos here on this YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit, and we are doing our live stream. I do my best to do one live stream a month. Typically, it is the last Thursday of every month, but the last Thursday of October was Halloween, and the last Thursday of November is going to be Turkey Day for the United States. So I was like, maybe we should just go ahead and get it since we skipped it last week, and I don't want to make everybody wait. And I don't see any point in doing it on Turkey Day, so just trying a different day. And I'm excited because now it's one of my favorite parts of this whole thing. I love that we sit and chat, and this isn't Ask Me Anything specific about knitting and everything, but you know what? We talk about lots of different things, but I love it when everybody starts saying hi and we get to see where everyone is. We already have 2 Robins, which I'm super excited about. We have some Ohioans and Virginia, and see, Ohio. Hello, the other Robin who is in Houston, Texas. Hello, Vivian from Canada. Welcome. Canada is a very large place. My guess is you're not really saying because maybe you're from a town that you think I probably wouldn't recognize, because most of us Americans can only identify a couple of large Canadian cities. But it's the same for the United States. I mean, I'm in Sarasota, so not a whole lot of people know exactly where Sarasota is, the state you might get. And I am doing great, Vivian. Thanks for asking. Hello, Mark. I am so glad you made it. Mark, the bass player. I'm sorry to have disappointed you last week. I know you were ready to eschew all candy related activities and chill with me, but I just decided to sit on the couch. It's 56 for the high. That is really not viable for me. Hello, Wheel Trish. I'm so glad to see you. I'm glad you made it. I know that you sometimes have problems with getting the alerts, so I'm glad that did that. Hello, Elizabeth Forrester in Texas. Hello, Daniela in Ontario, Canada. So we have 2 Canadians, eh? Very excited. In Bowie, Maryland. Excellent. Is that where the knife's from? I'm just curious. Vancouver. I have actually been to Vancouver. Vancouver is the only place in Canada that I have actually been to, because a very dear friend of mine who is also a knitwear designer, her name is Fatima Hines. I've interviewed her here and featured her work here on the thing, lives in Vancouver. So when I went out to the Pacific Northwest, I drove up to Vancouver, and I would love to go to Vancouver again. It seemed to be like a really chill town. I gotta admit, I was there for a whole day, and I pretty much drove directly to her house, hung out with the family, and drove directly home. I did not really experience Vancouver at all, but we were there for family and fellowship kind of situation. Her 2 little boys and my little boy have kind of grown up together. You know how Facebook gives you that one of those, this day 10 years ago or however many years ago, they gave me one, and it was it was a great picture of her boys and my boy together on a Halloween, and they were so little. I'm like, were they ever that little? So it's super fun. So that was fun. Hello, Heidi Cook. I'm glad you're here. We got multiple Texans here. Very 81 today. You know what? I have no idea what the temperature was today. I didn't really go outside. We're in Florida. Outside is usually wanting to kill us. Hello, Gail in Maryland. Bowie. Oh, it's Bowie, not Bowie. I was thinking the knife. I do want to go back to Vancouver and experience Vancouver. go for more than like getting up first thing in the morning in pretty much Tacoma, driving to Vancouver, spending the day, and then driving home and making sure we left before the borders like closed, like went to bed. I mean, I don't think they closed the border, but I think that there are times where like you can't do it at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Um, Dothan, Alabama. I know exactly where Dothan, Alabama is. Um, the knife is Bowie too. So that's good to know. Only David is Bowie. Only David is Bowie. You know what? That's like a t-shirt. Only David is Bowie because he was the Thin White Duke. I was just talking to my husband about, I mentioned him today in context of talking about, nostalgia from the 80s and the character he played in Labyrinth, which made an impact on developing young Barbara. I was probably in my like 12, 13-year-old range. Yeah. It's a I love that movie. I love that movie. It never gets old and it's really held up. I showed it to my son and he thought he was fine with Labyrinth and he watched the entirety of Labyrinth. I tried to show him Dark Crystal when he was little and he made it like maybe 8 minutes into it. He goes, "Mom, this is creepy." He made me turn it off. He's like, "That creeped me up." That's what he used to say. Instead of saying creeping me out, he would say, "It creeped me up." He's like, "Nope, nope." So he tapped out of the Dark Crystal, but he was good with the Labyrinth. Yes, college dorm wall is the perfect place for a picture of him. I miss him. He was an amazing performer. He was. I love that he made a cameo in Zoolander. That was just fantastic. Him in Zoolander. Zoolander, I adore the movie Zoolander, which is funny because I cannot stand Ben Stiller. Like, I don't like Ben Stiller as an actor, and I don't like the woman that was in it, and I don't like Owen Wilson. It's like, I don't like so many of the characters, but the movie as a whole, like, I don't like Will Ferrell in general, but the movie as a whole is just so absurd. It just I can't get over it. It's ridiculous. And it makes me laugh. And I actually have a picture of my son when I made him model one of my scarves when he was like maybe 4 or 5, and I made him make the the blue steel face. Hilarious. Very funny. The border never closes? Well, that's good to know, Heidi. We were like a little concerned that if we waited too long, they'd be like, "Nope, sorry, we're closed." Oh, Bowie and Crosby at Christmas. Awesome. Excellent. So, the purpose here is, does anyone have any knitting questions? Do we have anything we want to talk about yarn or knitting or tools or the knitting industry? I have actually been the Instagram has been suggesting, like, in among the picture feed, putting in thread chunks, thread being the meta attempt at taking some of the app formerly known as Twitter market. And so it's kind of like that. And I am on that. I really don't post on it, but there's been some really interesting, if you are not on Thread and you do like that kind of thing, but would prefer a platform that's a little less Wild Wild West than the platform formerly known as Twitter. Thread has actually had some really interesting knitting conversations. I follow Kate Atherley, who is an amazing long-term member of the industry, and she's been starting some really interesting and slightly controversial threads. And I also just like the fact that it's called Thread and the things are called threads. It just kind of speaks to the fiber artist in me. So if you aren't on that platform but like that kind of text-based conversation, might want to look into it. Just make sure that you curate your feed and fill it with fiber artists and fun stuff. which is what I have done. So I don't have any extraneous stuff. It's all fiber artists and K-pop fans is pretty much what I've got going on. Need a little water. Okay, Vivian, I have a question. Why do some knitting patterns say only 6 left? Okay, I need a little more context than that. Do you mean, is it a pattern where you're like, because it could say decrease 1 stitch every 2 rows until there are 6 stitches left. And that's fairly self-explanatory. What it is they tell you what the decrease pattern is, or decrease 2 stitches every 4th row, and until you have decreased to the point where you've gotten down to a set number of stitches. And the reason why they would do that is to not write it out line by line by line by line by line, because they can write that in like 1 line, but if it's going to take like 30 rows to get there, they don't want to write out all 30 rows. That's just repetitive, that it's just knit 2 together, knit to the end of the row, then knit 3 rows, then knit 2 together, knit to the end of the row. They just don't want to write that out repeatedly. So it's just one of the languages. This is a note on the pattern for sale online. There are all kinds of patterns on sale online. So again, I'm going to need more. Oh, are you talking about like, okay, Robin McAllister has said, is it like on Etsy? Oh, it's probably, okay, I'm guessing. Sorry, I went a totally different direction. More likely than not. So when you have an Etsy shop, okay, it's on Etsy. So this is what's going on. That is a sales platform kind of thing. Etsy was not designed to handle digital stuff. So what happens is every time a Etsy proprietor lists something, they have to pay to list it. Okay. And it is time gated. So you pay to list it, and that listing only lasts X amount of time. And then it expires, and you have to pay to relist it, whether or not it sells. So what some proprietors do is there is a part of the listing where you can say how many are available for sale under that same thing, right? So they might have listed that particular pattern has 10 for sale, and they're only paying for 1 listing instead of paying the 35 cents. And I'm just making up numbers because I don't sell on Etsy. Instead of paying like the 35 cents it costs to list it 10 times, they pay that 35 cents once and say there are 10 available, but they've sold 4. So 6 are remaining on that listing. So that just means that when all 6 of those have been purchased, that listing is going to expire, and the proprietor will have to repost it. So it's just a mechanics, sales mechanics kind of thing. So it just means there are 6 available. It's like as if there were an actual physical product. I mean, it's stupid because it's digital. So it's not that there's only 6 left. There's an infinite number of them left. But unless they're sending you a paper pattern, I would read your listing very carefully. Oh, Robin Fremer, you that seems like it's making work difficult for the artisans on Etsy. There is absolutely nothing about Etsy that is designed to benefit the artisans who use it. That is a really harsh thing for me to say, but it is my purposeful opinion. Etsy at the very beginning set out to be a place to connect artists with patrons, people who want to buy their things. And for years, that worked just fine. And Etsy did create tools with the express idea of doing what is needed and helpful for those artists. And once all of those artists had spent years and years building up the reputation of Etsy, Etsy then commoditized that reputation to market Etsy as an online marketplace and started changing all the rules to allow um, anyone and everyone to take advantage. They started of the marketplace that they had created. And I completely abandoned Etsy when they changed. They used to have an artist cooperative, which was to allow there be one store for like 3 or 4 artists who work together to only have that one store. Once they redefined artist cooperative to the extent where your artist cooperative could be 40 people in a warehouse in China hot gluing stuff together, I was done with Etsy. So the only thing Etsy exists for now is to try to squeak as much money possible out of the transactions. Sorry, that was kind of harsh, but that is my personal opinion on the situation. Um, oh, Oh, let's see if I'm admitting me. Okay, Mark agrees with me. Yay! Etsy is not nice. It is not nice. Um, you have issues with designers who won't sell a pattern on Ravelry because they want to drive sales to their Etsy shop. So I'm not gonna. I Your feeling on that is entirely valid. I'm not going to. I'm not personally going to judge a designer who chooses to really try to move things towards Etsy, or just encourage people to look at their Etsy shop, simply because um, for the vast majority of designers, Ravelry constitutes probably 80 to 90% of their income, and having all of your eggs in that one basket, and that basket being out of control, completely out of your control, um, is scary. Um, and Ravelry several years ago, I'm sure some of you remember, did that absolutely bonkers redesign of the website, and then pulled down the old, without telling one, pulled down the old site, put up the new site without giving themselves capability to revert it. And the new site had some very substantial visual problems with it that caused uh, difficulties for some people. And because of the way they chose to do it, it couldn't be rolled back. And there are a large number of people who had to quit using Ravelry. And that was really a harsh wake up call for a lot of designers, because they have no control. It was a harsh wake up call for me. I have no control over um, what Ravelry chooses to do. Ravelry is literally a website owned by 2 people. And if they decide tomorrow that they're over Ravelry, they can push a button and make it disappear, and it's all gone. So if Etsy is some designers' other source, encouraging and making sure people know that that option is available to them, I can understand that. I mean, I I personally invested in trying to make a website, and found another resource, which is PayHip, so that there is something that is mostly under my control. Um, but again, I PayHip was a little bit more challenging to do because I had to build it myself, because they don't have a marketplace, and the only way people are going to go there is if I drive them there. Whereas Etsy has a marketplace, so I don't know. But no, I wouldn't ever make it difficult for anyone to buy my stuff on Ravelry, because I want you to buy it. And it's better for me if you buy it on Ravelry, because they charge less than PayPal does. But again, I don't know why they would make that choice. Um, would I make a video about saying no specifically to family? I made a video about saying no, and I don't know that family is excluded from it. Have you watched that one, Melissa? Um, so no, and Robin, I'm not saying I don't buy stuff on Etsy. There are artists who I have had been purchasing stuff for years and years and years, and if that's where they sell it, that is where I'm going to buy it. I was just saying why I personally do not sell anything on Etsy. Um, and if that's what works best for them, that's what works best for them. Okay, different patterns in different places, bizarre wheel, Trish. I don't know. I don't know what the idea is behind that. Doesn't they sell different patterns in different places? That is, I would drive me nuts too. That is really strange. I have no idea why one would do that. Hello, joke. Oh, be safe in the hospital. Be safe in this hospital, Jonna. Everything will be great. They also require a certain number of items to be sold at a discount. No, thank you. Okay, sorry, Trish, I can see you saying it's not about that, and I'm sorry that I just kept going on. I wasn't looking at the chat, and I just kind of got on a roll. That is a really strange. I agree. That is completely bizarre. Yes, you're right. Mine is the same material in different places. That's the only things that might seem like it's not the same material in different places is I have at least 2 or 3 patterns with, like, Manos del Uruguay that kind of like, if you were looking at Ravelry, it would look like it was available in my Ravelry store, like, purchased from me, but when you buy it, it's actually being purchased from Manos, and those I can't put on my personal website, but that's really nitpicky. Um, that picking and choosing what patterns go where is really strange. Yay, awkward human! I'm glad you caught alive as well. Okay, Melissa, what did we yes, multiple times. Now I gotta go back. Okay, you've watched it multiple times. I don't know. I'll go back and watch it and see if there's anything because I have to go back and watch things too. I'll go back and watch it and see if there's anything I can come up with that would be more aimed at family. But for me, they're family. I mean, you don't get to take advantage of me just because you're related to me. Um, I mean, it's all the same kind of logic for me, but I can understand that depending on your interpersonal relationships with your family, how it can be challenging. I can totally understand that. I don't envy that. Oh, Ruthie K. So Ruthie K has suggested Pruna Knits has a video on that, so that might help. Just got a hand-dyed yarn from Jill Draper Makes Stuff. It came with the card that says each stitch is integral to the strength of the whole. That is a wonderful thing that is good. You loved a video on how to say no. So when I first started on Ravelry, one of the Ravelry forums that I was in a lot was one that's called Selfish Knitters. And that really empowered me because I had challenges when I first started knitting with um, being in groups of other knitters that felt that trying to pressure me into knitting for charity, that like if you weren't knitting for charity, then you were just wasting your time and that you were being selfish and things like that. So for me, getting into the being selfish about my knitting, a lot of it was as a pushback against being guilted into charity knitting. Um, so that is kind of what spawned that particular video. Your now former gynecologist bugged you for years to make felted wool hats for her. That's a big fat no. What do you mean? That is a no. No. It's cheaper. Tell her to go to Etsy. See me bring that around? Go to Etsy. You want to buy stuff like that? Buy it from somebody who actually wants to make it. Um, you know, Robin, I do not disagree with you. The people who ask, I have issues with the whole "it doesn't hurt to ask" concept because I get, as a knitwear designer, I will get Ravelry messages and emails that is someone who gives me this whole big story about how they're sick or how they're on social security or for whatever reason they tell me a 3-paragraph story about why they can't afford my $6 knitting pattern, and they want me to just send it to them. They want me to just give it to them. And the whole "it doesn't hurt to ask" is like, yes, but if you ask me to do that, what you are saying to me is you feel my work has no value. And that hurts. When you tell me that you think that what I do, like as a profession, has no value and you don't want to give me any money for it, it's mean. So it does hurt. So it doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt to ask applies to Best Buy, not artists. Okay. You can ask for a discount or something like that at a major multi freaking state chain, not at the little mom and pop restaurant. Okay. Because it's two very, very different things. Mark, I grasp the charity knitting thing. We only have so much time each day. And it's not that I've never done charity knitting, but there are groups of knitters that I've run into that really the entire purpose. I thought I was walking into a space where it's like, we're going to sit and knit and chat and have fun and talking about knitting. And it was, I walked in and they're like, we are knitting charity stuff for this particular charity. What are you going to donate? And it's I don't know. It's I think a lot of it's in how it's presented. Because I used to when I was a member of the Atlanta Knitting Guild, the primary charity that the Atlanta Knitting Guild worked on was we knit sweaters for teddy bears. Well, other kinds of stuff, but mostly teddy bears. And people would collect these gently used teddy bears, and we would knit sweaters for them, and then we would donate them to this facility. I'm going to use that word in the state of Georgia. It was in the Atlanta area, and what this facility was a forensic um, police sort of facility. But it was also a social services kind of facility. And what it was is it was specifically purpose built where it had interview rooms where children who were victims of or witness to violent or sexual crimes could be taken. The police would bring them directly to this facility where they would be interviewed, the forensic interview, by child psychiatrists and professionals. And the way it was set up is it's recorded, and those, because of this facility, those recordings are admissible in court. So the child does not have to be re-interviewed, and the child does not have to undergo the trauma of being a witness on the stands. Let's see if I can do that. And so one of the things they did is when they would bring the kids in after they did their interview, they would take them to this room that was full of all these teddy bears that all had these different hand knit sweaters on them. And the child would pick out the teddy bear, and they got to keep that teddy bear and take it home with them. And apparently it was, for the rest of that traumatic day, they would have that thing that was theirs and separate. So I knit teddy bear sweaters like they were going out of style because that's awesome. That was a long story. Tangent. Sorry. You don't knit fast enough to do charity knitting. Exactly. Your knitting time is valuable. And people asking you to they're just asking you, time is really expensive. So, I didn't mention my hair's doing fuzzy things. Um so instead of, you know how for the past couple times I've been doing the no ads whatsoever, and I was concerned that the number of people it was showing it to was down because of that. So I did select an option for ads that they would run, but I got to like control them somehow. And I just got a little pop-up that said ads will run for some people, but there was a skip button, so I skipped them. So I may have come up with a workaround for making YouTube think I'm running ads, but actually not running ads. So there's that. Time is life, Ruthie. Virginia has child advocacy centers that do that. Very cool. And yeah, it's there are things that I believe in and will support. Um, Robin, when people ask me to knit or quilt for them, I tell them how much it will cost, materials, time, etc. They usually say, but socks are $1 at Walmart. Oh, if they say if socks are $1 at Walmart, it's like, go to Walmart. Why don't you just go to Walmart? What did you think I was going to knit it for you for 50 cents and you were going to save money? No. I was wondering. Elizabeth Forrester, it does not surprise me that we had the eagle eye in there. There are actually two things on my silent partner hanging out back there. We might want to talk about it. So I got to make a video. This you guys have been seeing and seeing and seeing. It is finally going to be released this coming week. So we'll talk about that for a second. This is my newest project, which considerably less yarn. So I got knit faster. And as you can see, I haven't even trimmed the ends. So this is, I don't know if you can see it, a new shawl that I designed. There, can you see the pattern? Because it's lace, it's sometimes hard to hold up, so y'all can't really see it very effectively. I've been thinking about it right now. Its name. So I started knitting this in the car when I cast it on. I had it all charted up and ready to go, and I cast it on in the car when I was evacuating for Milton. So during the multi-hour drive to Tallahassee, I was knitting this and I've been knitting it ever since. Oh, thank you, Desiree. Oh, thank you, Cindy and Robin. So Oh, the Mrs. Bass Player loves it. Excellent. So this one is specifically designed to play well with variegated yarns. There are a lot of tricks that I use that are the tricks that I teach. And this is Malabrigo Ultimate Sock, and it's their Anniversario colorway. I mean, and I legit bought it. I mean, I just walked into a store and bought it. This is not a collaboration or anything. This is just, I designed it and then I looked through my stash to decide what I was going to knit it out of. What I'm thinking, and right now the working name for this is hurricane season. I'm going to call it hurricane season because Milton is not a good name for a shawl. I figured Milton wouldn't work well, but I thought hurricane season worked, and the waviness and the movement in it, I feel like it works. Now, let me show you something really cool. This is the quote unquote wrong side. I mean, it's not perfectly reversible, but I don't think the wrong side is like horribly wrong. I mean, it still has, so this has a combination of stockinette, reverse stockinette, and ribbing all in lace. So so you still got stockinette, reverse stockinette, and ribbing with the lace. Hurricane Waves and Wind. Robin, yes, thank you. Tempest is a great name, but I really wanted to do hurricane season because I did totally knit this because I was stressed out and the whole time I was evacuated. And so yeah. So that it's got a wiggly edge. And I did not anticipate this, but I blocked to it. Oh, if I completely cover the screen, my webcam goes bonkers. It has a wiggly edge on the bottom as well. Now, I kind of blocked points into it, but since this is Ultimate Sock, it is a wool nylon blend, and I knew that the nylon would pull it back some. So this is gonna sit for a while to let it relax because I did aggressively block it, but we're going to see what it pulls back to before I look at the gauge and before I work on measurements. And so this is the side to side asymmetrical shawl, right? But here's my sneaky plan. Yes, it has a lot of visual movement, and visual movement is what really helps with variegated yarns. White piece to hold it up against. I'll probably shoot it on my silent partner, but I'll probably do some like flat lays of it and shoot it at an angle, because if I do a flat lay and shoot it at an angle, it's going to not be as transparent. I'm going to have to be creative in photographing it. That's one of the challenges of variegated yarn, because variegated yarn is beautiful, but it's hard to photograph. So here's the thing. Tell me what you think of this. So this is the side-to-side asymmetrical shawl. I also have it charted out as a top-down triangle and a top-down crescent. And what I'm thinking of doing is taking other yarn and knitting my little mini, like my little mini shawls that I do. So it's like the setup and a few repeats, and do a mini shawl of the triangle and a mini shawl of the crescent, and write up the pattern for that and offer it as, so you could buy the standalone pattern or buy like an ebook, which will have the standalone pattern for the side to side, but also the patterns for if you want to do it in a triangle or if you want to do it in a crescent. Now, the big difference is you will not have a full-size photograph, and I won't be able to give you X number of, I'll give like a yardage range and guidelines for what you might want to do, but I can't be like, this is going to be this size. But what I can do is have the ebook with the 2 additional shapes, so like the shawl will be like $7 because that's my standard shawl price. And then with the ebook, maybe, because it's technically 2 more shawls, which would be 7, 14, 21, but I can do it for like 12. So you get those 2 other shapes if you want to do that. And then you get all 3 of the shapes. But again, if you don't want to pay that extra, you can buy just the one independently. But you'll have pictures, like proof of concept that it's going to work, because the way the instructions are going to be is set up and then just repeat this until you run out of yarn, for a triangle and a crescent. What do y'all think of that? I will watch it back, Ruthie. Yes, fingering with nylon. So Robin says she started buying non-superwash and buying fingering with nylon for shawls. It definitely does affect your blocking and how it's going to hold lace. Okay, so Will Trish likes the ID. Okay, yay. Arnetta likes the ebook idea. So this would work as a bandana. You just don't make it as big. So the thing is, Trish, that is a fantastic idea, but the other two shawls won't have names. The other two shawls really won't have names because they really will not be standalone patterns. They're not good. It's not like you can buy the asymmetrical or the crescent or the triangle. The crescent and triangle will just be like add-ons to the asymmetrical, because if I listed them separately in Ravelry, I would have to I would have to knit the entire shawl, and then at that point I would have to just sell them as 3 separate patterns, which I really don't want to do because I feel like that is not, I mean, just taking the same stitch and doing it at 3 different shapes and then charging 3 times for it. I don't like that. It doesn't sit right with me. I can't exactly put my finger on why, but I do like that idea. The storm shawl sounds like an awesome idea. Maybe I could call the ebook storm shawls, but they're like all 3 two-sided, not reversible. That is exactly it, Elizabeth. Ruthie K, then from crescent can transition to top. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that statement. Hey, Melissa, thank you. Storms in a teacup, exactly. Thank you guys so much. That one, and actually, did I ever tell you what this ended up being named? Okay, so then we got the other one up here. Y'all have been seeing this for months and months and months. It is finally going. See, in there, yeah. See, but it's out of focus back here, but with the white, you can do it. You guys have been seeing this jobby for months and months and months. I will be making a video this weekend. So the full pattern tour will be going on with this one. I might need to steam it a little bit. It's been hanging out for a while, kind of wadded up. So this one is an addition to my I have multiple, you know what, I should probably open it. I have multiple different pieces that are all Alice in Wonderland themed. What I have, it's been a while since A Grin Without a Cat. A lot of people have been seeing that one. A Grin Without a Cat is a Cheshire Cat reference. Then we've got it's here. I know it's here. You know what? It's hard to comb through all my stuff. I've got a scarf named Gyring Gimbal, and I have one named In Uffish Thought, and then I have one named dot and Curiouser. So I've got multiple Alice in Wonderland, and I will continue to name things Alice in Wonderland-ish. This one is named Cabbages and Kings. So this is Cabbages and Kings. This is from the Walrus and the Carpenter song in Through the Looking Glass. The time has come for us, my friends, to speak of many things, of sailing ships and sealing wax and cabbages and kings. It's the moon was shining bright one day, shining with all his might, doing its very best to make the billows warm and bright. And this was odd, because it was the middle of the night. The moon was shining sulkily because it thought the sun had no business being out after the day was done. Okay. That tune, I mean, it's written as a poem, and the song comes from, there was a live adaptation of Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, and it was either in the 80s or the 90s. And it was like Ringo Starr was the mock turtle, and Carol Channing was the White Queen. It was like surreal. I just remember it being like so surreal. And that was, and I remember they sang it instead of reciting it like a poem, they sang it, and that was the Walrus and the Carpenter. Um, dun, dun, dun. Okay, so this pattern, I'm going to do it. This pattern will officially go live sometime during the day on Tuesday, on the 12th. And the reason why I'm doing it on the 12th is because I need to send the links to Miss Babs, because Miss Babs, this is a collaboration with Miss Babs, and she needs to have all the links and all the information in time for her people to write the newsletter on Wednesday, and her newsletter will come out on Thursday. So I have to have all that prep done. Now, I will also be sending out my newsletter on Thursday at this, or I might even wait later. But no, I'm trying to decide. There are things to think about. But if you have signed up for my newsletter and you are interested in this shawl, you might want to consider waiting don't just jump on it on Tuesday. Wait, because as always with my newsletter, I will send out a subscriber coupon for you to get a discount on your purchase. That's one of the reasons I have the newsletter, because I don't like doing, like, I send out, and it is a pain in the butt, let me tell you. They are single-use coupon codes that I have to generate and do Excel stuff to, and set it up, and because I do not like doing the use this code for X off, because then just random people use it. This is a thank you for like being my follower and stuff like that. So I put the effort into making sure that it's only the people who are supposed to have it that get it. So if you are a subscriber to my newsletter and you want this new pattern or any of my new patterns, wait till you get the newsletter and then use the code in the newsletter to get, I think it's 30% off is what I'll do. Yes, Cindy, you can really see. Actually, let's see if we can get it in focus. You can see it. That worked well, didn't it? No, it just really doesn't want to be in focus. But yes, because of the white, you can see that. So it's Heidi, thank you. I don't know if I have a nice voice. So no, this is actually, so Trish asked what yarn it is, wants to know if it's Yummy 2-ply. This is actually designed to use 6 of the Yowza minis. So this is DK weight, which is why it is so ginormous. It's like 1,200 yards. And it's a much chunkier. So I think I did it on a size 8. So, and it's specific, again, we'll be talking in the pattern tour about it. So each color, like this pink, only needs to have sufficient contrast with the color that comes after it and the color that came before it. So it really is amenable to a very large number of mixed colors. You could get really crazy with the different colors you use on this. I specifically chose like 2 mini fades. So I chose a light, a medium, and a dark blue, and a light and a medium and a dark, kind of this kind of Adobe pinkish color. But you don't have to do that. That's not necessary. You could totally, but one of the reasons why I'm saying I'm thinking about when I'm going to send out my newsletter is because I think Miss Babs might be putting together kits of the color I used. And if she is, then I'm going to wait until I see like her newsletter. And if there's a link, so that when I send out my newsletter, I can include a link to where you could get a kit if you like the yarns, the colors that I selected. So that is definitely something that I'm trying to decide on the timing of the newsletter. Maybe I'll send out my newsletter on Friday because hers is going out on Thursday. But and this so this pattern is 2 stitches, okay? Is a texture pattern and a lace pattern. And these stitches are all, it's 4 stitches wide and 4 rows tall. And this is 4 stitches wide and 4 rows tall. It's just the same thing over and over and over, changing the colors. So it is actually just stimulating enough to be interesting, but not anything that's going to require any amount of brain power. Okay, you have a ton of those from the baby blanket project. That is perfect, Wheel Trish. Again, it's the, and I have like a whole pile of them. But yeah, so this is what they look like. It is mini only in the context of the Yowza, because you're looking at 80 grams DK. Actually, so this is a really old one. It's still labeled light worsted, which is funny. But it is technically DK now. Well, there was fiddling about that. How do you sign up for my newsletter? Here we go. Here we go. That's how you sign up for my newsletter. It's just MailChimp. So, but yes, if you have like scraps of DK weight and everything, you could totally use it in this pattern. Oh, you saw, yes, the Babs booth at a fiber festival is absolutely amazing. I love her yarn. I love her people. They're just, I've been working with them for a long time, and some of my favorites. It's always good to use up stash. Wheel Trish said, yay, I don't have to buy yarn. Yes. IMDb has over 25 movies called Alice in Wonderland. I'm pretty sure it was a mini series. 1985. Let me see if this is the right one, because man, it was totally bizarre. Let me see. It was so strange. Hang on. Where's the White Queen? I really remember the White Queen being Carol Channing. Nope, here it is. Ringo Starr is the Mock Turtle. Okay. So, yeah. So it is from 1985. And they did both Through the Looking Glass and Alice in Wonderland. Red Buttons played the White Rabbit. Roddy McDowell played the March Hare. Sherman Hensley played the Mouse. Sally Struthers played the Tiger Lily. Scott Baio was in it. It was Sammy Davis Jr.'s in it. It was really, Imogene Coca played the cook. Telly Savalas was the Cheshire Cat. John Stamos, Ernest Borgnine, Beau Bridges. It was just one of those. Lloyd Bridges played the White Knight. Sid Caesar, Ringo Starr, There it is. Carol Channing was the White Queen. I remember. Harvey Korman was the White King. It was just in 1985. I was 12. It was just. It was like a fever dream, but I remember it. Good night, Ruthie. Okay, here's a link. I don't know. Here's the IMDb link to it. You met Scott Baio? That's wild. You were 20 and he was gorgeous. I 100% believe you. On both counts. So yeah, that Alice in Wonderland is really, I don't know if there's any way to watch it now. I don't know if that's something that's available digitally. But dude, it was like the closest little 12-year-old had me to being stoned. I mean, it was like so weird. You didn't realize I was so very young? I'm 51. I'm 51. So I'm definitely in the middle age portion of my program. But I don't know. I try to pretend like I'm not. Okay, so Melissa, I hope you saw the link for signing up. 59 and feeling fine. You know what? It's one of those. It's one of those things. You were 35 and 85. You know, it's kind of wild because, like, if you ask me what would 30 years ago be, I'm like, oh, 30 years ago was like 1950. It's like before I was born. No, 30 years ago was like the 90s. Yeah, I'm feeling old. Well, thank you very much, Samika. You got any questions? We're here for questions. We've been talking about some knitting a little bit, but mostly we just talk about wild stuff. 74, excellent. Actually, have y'all? Okay. I can't share screen. Oh, I can. There's a button that says share screen. Oh, I'm going to see if I can do this. Let me see if I can do this. I'm pushing buttons. Is very dangerous. Buttons are not toys. But we're going to see if I can share this with y'all. Let me go into the pro portion of the program. Designs. I'm going to look at something else. You don't need to see that. I'm going to see how this works. Lightroom publish, Cabbages and Kings. Okay. Okay. Now let's see. Select window or screen. Okay, we're going to see if this works. Nope, that was wrong. There we go. Okay. Everybody keep your fingers crossed. Okay? Did that work? Ooh, I pushed the button. Okay. So here is the picture. Oh, wow. Now that I can do this, y'all are in so much trouble. I'm going to be doing stuff. You're in trouble now. So these are the pictures that have not yet been released for Cabbages and Kings. And my model, this is my lovely model. This is my mother. Okay. I should be able to, I thought I was going to be able to go to the next page, but apparently I can't. Don't want to rotate. Okay. So, oh, there we go. There we go. So, this is my mom. Okay, and you can see what I worked on. See this? I didn't get the depth of field correct in my photographs, so I had to go into Photoshop and see. So this is some of the things. This is super behind the scenes. So if you look at that, you can see that the plants in the background are really more in focus than I would like and kind of distracting. So I manipulated. This is the only kind of manipulation I do. So you guys like it better like that. I'm so glad you like it, Trish. See, and so there she is. You can't really see. I helped her pick out these pants, and I'm a little bummed. Oh, there you go. Look. Her jeans have rhinestones on them. Aren't those fantastic? I love it so much. She has rhinestones. She has these rhinestone jeans, and she wore the cowboy boots. I thought it looked pretty snazzy in this outfit. Here she is. There are no rhinestones on the back, but rhinestones. This is a close-up of the shot. This was to give an idea. I mean, nobody's going to wear it like this, but to see the color progression and give an idea. A lot of the shots that I take, the way that I style it, nobody's going to wear it like this. This is just so that y'all can decide whether or not you want to make this shawl. And then this one. This was just to give a rough idea of how big this thing is. It is so big. It is just ridiculously large. But it's great because it can be wrapped multiple times. So it's kind of like that Lenny Kravitz viral scarfie. It's a stole, but it's just big. But the reason I wanted to show off my beautiful mother. Just so you know, she's 77. She's 77 years old. So there we go. Because you guys were talking about age. Okay, we're turning that off. There we go. Well, thank you very much, Robin. Okay, Shamika, how do you knit with really thick wool yarn? I think to answer that question is I would need to, what are the challenges that you're running into with really thick wool yarn? One of the things that's really important is to use the appropriate size needles. If you're talking about like a really bulky yarn, you're going to have to be knitting with anywhere from like a 12 to a size 17 needle. These really big needles. Because otherwise, if you try to knit a really thick yarn on smaller needles, it's going to be really, really challenging. I actually wrote an entire book on bulky yarn, knitting lace in bulky yarn. And I did go up as high as a size 17 needle for the Rasta pattern, which is a really super bulky yarn. So it's a matter of matching the right needle to your yarn. That said, when you get up into the larger yarns, and the larger needles, a lot of people find that it puts a lot of strain on their hands. So there are some people who do not particularly care for working with the bulkier yarns, or it's something that you just have to pace yourself and acknowledge that if you're used to doing 2, 3, 4 hour knitting sessions, if you're working with these really large needles and large yarn, you may only be able to knit for an hour or so at a time. And it's just giving yourself that time and that grace, give yourself grace to let your body tell you what it needs. Lenny Kravitz, cool dude. That is absolutely amazing, Mark. I can believe that he is a cool dude. He looks like a cool dude. Robin, they are hard to knit with. The which on the plus side, if you're knitting with 17 with giant yarn, you're probably going to be done with whatever you're doing fairly quickly because you're making giant stitches. So it's a trade-off. It's it's just one of those things. But Shamika, I don't know if that helped. Please feel free to elaborate on your question in the comments, because I'm how is like a really general question, and if I know what's causing you issues, I might be able to help a little bit. Uh, but there are some things that just hurt and some things that are just challenging. I mean, because of 17, hang on, I have a 17. Yep. These are my 17s. I mean, and they're huge. They're just monster. And the join was catchy. I had put tape on it because it was not cooperating with me. But yeah, they are monsters. And I specifically got these. These are zings, I believe. And it is something that if you're trying to knit big things, these are hollow aluminum, so they don't have the weight. Like if you get into something that like maybe a chow gu or something that is a solid metal, that is a solid stainless steel or even wood, the weight of them can cause problems. So these are actually really light. Um, these are really light. They don't weigh more than a solid needle substantially smaller. So using I forgot that I went out of my way to get these because I knew that it was going to hurt. So yeah, a hollow needle can be beneficial. And I know it's not for some people. But this is what I knit the big shawl on. And oh my God, I had to cram the stitches. This was the biggest thing I could get a hold of. I normally do my best to buy all of my needles and stuff in a yarn store, but some of these things I had to order online because that's not something people typically carry in the store, is the big old giant one. You're trying to knit with Addy Rocket squared needles. It helps your arthritis. Don't have to hold too firmly. I'm currently knitting a shawl with a pair of signatures, but your hands hurts. Yes, because signatures are solid, and the Rocket squared, the ones with the bumps on it, those are hollow. So those are actually good. Now, I'm just gonna, in case anybody has Addy Rocket squared and we're planning on traveling, make sure that you do not check them in your luggage, because it doesn't happen all the time, but I have seen pictures of it. Those Addy Rockets are hollow, and there have been situations where people check them in their luggage and the hold depressurizes and it flattens because they're square. They just pancake. The needle itself pancakes because it depressurizes. And it has something to do with vacuums or whatever. But if you're flying high enough in the plane and the hole depressurizes and your needles are in there and they're those Addy Rocket squared, they go squish. And that's a very expensive lesson to learn. So I thought I'd remind y'all not to do that. Oh, good. Robin had not heard that, so that makes me happy that I could share. Because I saw the picture, I was like, oh my, that would really suck if you had an entire like set of interchangeables that did that. That would be bad. But yeah, they can go squishy squish. I wouldn't check after seeing that. I wouldn't check any of my hollow needles. And you just got to know which ones they are. Okay. Any more knitting questions? Yarn questions? The gift along is getting ready to have signups for designers, and we'll start at the end of November. I believe the 21st is when the kickoff is. If you have never done the gift along, um, you can find, if you just type gift along into like my search bar on my YouTube channel, you can find old videos that I've done about it. I don't know that I'm going to do one this year. I might, but it is a whole bunch of independent designers that get together and do a like essentially month-long knit along, and we break it out into categories. And to kick it off for 2 weeks at the beginning of it, there is a it's like the biggest sale of patterns, and it's all independent designers, and all the designers can choose between 10 and 20 of their patterns to put into the sale. It is the same coupon code for all of the designers. It's Gift Along 2024, and it's 25% off. And there typically are in the range of 300-ish designers participating. And so that's a whole lot of patterns on sale. And then if you participate in the knit-alongs themselves, every time you finish a project and you post about finishing it, you can put it into the finished object thread, and there are prizes. You can get free coupons, everything from coupons for free patterns from any of the designers to like yarn to all kinds of stuff. And it's a lot of fun to hang out in the threads and talk to people and show people what you're doing, and the whole fun of a knit along. So the gift along might be something to look into. Your new favorite yarns have yak or camel with silk or merino. I love yak yarns. And I have done some camel, but there's not enough of it but it's got a nice weight to it. There's like a coolness to camel that is really interesting. But merino yak silk, they're merino yak silk blends that are just beautiful. One of the things I really like about yak as a yarn is that the natural color of yak is not white. It is kind of like a grayish off-whitey kind of thing. And it means that when indie dyers dye it, you get this rich, like the jewel tones that you can get with yak are just amazing. I don't know if you've ever done egg dyeing, like in the springtime. It's the difference between dyeing on a white egg and dyeing on a brown egg. You get just a richer, deeper color. So I adore yak yarns. The gift along is a great way to get patterns and discover new ones. And if you stick out in the gift along threads, see what other people make, and you're like, oh, I didn't see that one, because there were literally thousands of them for me to look at. But it's really cool. What is different than you thought it was? I'm curious. Okay. Sorry, my arm is. So, I'm watching for any knitting questions. Oh, the gift along. What did you? So, I mean, I'm just giving you like the Cliff's Notes version of it. The gift along has the sale portion, but the sale portion only lasts for 2 weeks. And then essentially what it is you can knit any pattern from any participating designer, not just the ones you buy, like that time. It's any of the patterns. If you have any of my patterns, you can use any of my patterns to participate in the gift along. And what you would do, say you're knitting one of my, we're just going to say hats. So you would go into the hat thread, which has its own dedicated thread, and you would say, I am going to knit this hat by Barbara Benson. And then I, as a moderator, would say, that's fantastic. I can't wait to see it. And then I would put your name on one of the posts and a link to what you're making. So you can go to the front and there'll be all these lists of everything that people are making. And then once you finish it, you post and say, hey, I finished my hat. And you post a picture of it. I go, good job. And then I'll go over and I'll mark and I'll write the word done next to it. So everybody knows that you finished it. And then you go post it in the general no chat thread. But like the hat thread is a chat thread, and there's 8 different threads. There's hats, there's sweaters, there's shawls, and then there's non-shawl neck things. There's socks, there's baby stuff, there's toys and miscellaneous stuff, which has become the gnome thread because Imagined Landscapes participates. And I don't know, there's one more. There's 8. So there's separate threads so that, like, if you're only wanting to work on one thing, you don't have to be in with all the other things. It's not like everybody all at the same time. We try to break it up because there's so many people. Gloves. Gloves are cool. I will never knit gloves. I knit fingerless mitts, but I will not knit gloves because the whole thing about like doing each individual finger and like having to knit it and then finish it and then knit it in like 5 little tubes, which means that's 10 additional ends. No, 10 additional ends to weave it. Nope. That's too much. I have a limited level of fiddliness. You know, Robin, it's hilarious because you said you only design sweaters. You haven't done any accessories. I have only designed accessories. I have not designed sweaters yet. And I will not be designing sweaters. That is not on my list of things to do. Okay, I told y'all, I'm waiting if there's any more yarn questions. I told y'all I was going to take a watercolor class. And I did, and it's already over. And the hurricane was in the middle of it, so it wasn't even as long as it was supposed to be. But I thought I'd show you what I did. Okay. So Robin McAllister, random question. Do you have much experience with color work? My color work always seems to look like it puckers while I'm working on it until I hold it out flat, then it's fine. The floats are long enough, it still looks puckery. So the first question is, do you have much experience with color work? I assume you're meaning stranded color work like Fair Isle, and the answer is no, I do not. I have knit a grand total of 1 stranded piece. It was luckily a Christmas stocking, because if it was for an actual foot, no one could put a foot in it because it only lays flat. It does not become tube shaped because of float management issues. Blocking, you know, lace looks puckery and bizarre before you block it. Block it fixes a multitude of sins. Don't worry about how it's looking as you're working on it if when you block it, it's fine. Now, if when you block it, it's still puckery, then you need to start looking into your tension issues. There's some people who actually like to knit, especially if they're knitting in the round, they like to knit it inside out so that the floats are going around the outside. But I am not the person to consult on stranded knitting because not on my list of things to do. I do slip stitch knitting, slip stitch color work, because the thing is, I have a lot of experience with color work, but it is specifically slip stitch color work. Like, wrote a book on it. But stranded color work, not so much. Yes, we are opposites, Robin, but that's awesome. My best friend and I used to go knitting, go yarn shopping all the time. And one of the great things was we would go and we would be shopping for yarn, and she would pick up a skein of yarn and she's like, I saw this. And I was like, wow, that is one of the ugliest colors I've ever seen. Barbara's going to love it. And I'd be like, who? I thought of you too, because this one, we had diametrically opposed color senses. So we could always figure out what the other one wanted, because it was like, that is the last thing I would buy. So she's going to love it. Okay. So I did watercolor. And so we started with grayscale. Hey, Karen. We started with grayscale, and I painted some pears. Look at my pears. Apparently, the universal thing to paint is pears. I painted some pears. And then for homework, he said, you should go paint some more pears. So I painted some more pears and did some washes to try to get washes. So there's some more pears that I painted. And then for fun, I painted some more pears. So there's a lot of pears. And then I painted a pear with an apple. So there's my pear with an apple. It's good. So pears. I'm good on pears. I enjoy pears. Pears don't run away when I try to paint them. So I'm pretty excited about my pears. Now, I attempted to do something a little bit more complex. It was less successful. I attempted to paint a snail shell. My snail shell is not as good as my pears. It is problematic. It did not come out the way I wanted it to, but it's there. So we did a lot of grayscale, and then we did some color. This is a tomato. They are fruity paintings, Arnetta. This is a tomato. It is not a good tomato. It is a mutant tomato, but it's my first attempt at painting color. Lots of pears. And then I painted some apples. These are my green apples. So they're apples. They have some challenges, but that is as close to painting color as I got. So that was my watercolor attempt. I painted a large quantity of fruit. Lots of fruit. So, but the instructor that I had, the technique that he was teaching was all working a layer, letting it dry, working another. So it was all wet on dry. So we didn't do any of the wet on wet techniques. That, you know what, Robin, I really can't either. I cannot paint or draw. It's really, I just tried. Just take a class. So today, the last couple of days, I've been playing with, on my own, wet on wet techniques, which is like the idea of putting the water on the page first and then like dropping color into it and seeing what it does. And so I did, this is me playing with it. And I kind of like how this one came out. That one was kind of cool. So what I was thinking about is the idea. I took a like a plate of water, and I took a cup, a glass, and I was thinking about like the rings that coffee leaves. And so I took the glass and I dipped the mouth of it in and then put it on the page. Thank you, Heidi. Pears. Pears are what they tell all brand new people to paint. I think pears are like the training wheels of art, because it's hard to make a pear that doesn't look like a pear, because pears are all wonky anyway. And so I tried the water, and the thing is not enough water like stuck. And I got this, and then I used the bottom of the glass, and it ended up with this. And then I did it again. And when I picked it up and I was putting it down on the paper, I noticed that the surface tension, it was like the whole bottom of the glass had like a shiny, like there was a bubble, right? And so when I put it down, that's when this happened. The bubble popped and it got this like effect. So then I was like, and then I tried to make it happen again, and I could not get the bubble to save my life. So then I was like, what if? So I took my water and I put a little bit of dishwashing soap in it, just a tiny bit. And then it was much easier to get the bubble. Did you not? Oh, see, look here. Daniela painted pears. Training wheels. Pears and training wheels. Everybody paints pears. So here, have a pear. So I put the soap in it, and it made it easier to get the bubbles. And then instead of just having these little partial rings, I was getting like this one, you can really see the bubble. I really was happy with the purple one because it got like a whole ring. And then this one only got like this partial ring. And then I did the bottom again. And then I did the thing where you splatter water and dropped. I don't know. I was just playing. And this final, see the little wormy looking thing? I'm going to play with this some more. I was like, what if I took some yarn and soaked it in water and then put it on the page, like just, and then squished it and pulled it up. And that's what happened here. So I might play with more yarn. I don't know. So yes, playing with watercolors. And as you can see, like I am painting on the back of like this says the color studies he had us do. So I'm just, it's all, and there's one thing that I want to share with you that that my instructor said that really awkward human. My friend played a lot with wet on wet, satisfying to watch the color spread. It really is. It's really cool. And Mark, the bass player, might be like, ooh, that's interesting. My instructor was like, okay, everything we paint in this class is garbage. And we're like, excuse me? He's like, I mean, I don't mean you are painting garbage. He's like, it's you are learning to do this. You are practicing. And what he said is, he said piano. He said, when someone is learning to play the piano, they don't record for posterity every time they sit down at that piano. You have to practice, and your practice is going to look like garbage. That's the only way you're going to learn. So he's like, don't think that everything we paint here, if you do something wrong or if you mess it up or it doesn't look the color you want, it doesn't matter. You are learning how to use these instruments. You're learning to use the instruments of art. And you don't have to paint something perfect to start with. You're not going to save and frame anything you do in this class. And you're not going to save and frame. You might not save and frame anything you do as you learn to paint for a long time. And that's okay because you're learning. So I thought that was a really, and I think that you can extrapolate that to a lot of things, especially like knitting. It's like we expect to learn how to knit and have like something like functional and perfect from the get-go. And it's like, you're not going to sit down and at your very first try knit a perfect sweater. That's not a realistic expectation of yourself or for anyone to have of you. You've got to practice. You've got to learn how to do it. Excuse me. Yes, Heidi, you need to try painting pears. Everyone should paint pears. Pears are fantastic. Like knitting your first scarf. Yes, Robin. You know what? People have started. I'm thinking about making a video about people ask what is the perfect like first project to make. You know what's the best first project to make? A coaster. Make a coaster. Coasters don't have to be a specific shape. Coasters don't have to be a specific size. Coasters don't care if you messed up knits and pearls. It's a coaster. I was thinking initially like a hotbed, but that makes a difference because you don't want to knit that in acrylic and because it'll melt. But make a coaster, man. I mean, you cast it on, dude. Make a bunch of coasters. Everybody needs coasters. Make a bunch of coasters, wrap them in a bow, donate them to Goodwill. It's like, hey, coasters. I mean, it's just one of these. Everybody wanting to have a functional garment from their first attempt at knitting, I feel, is unrealistic and too hard on ourselves. And it's okay that your first scarf looked horrible, Shamika. It was your first scarf. I mean, that's what, nobody expects you to be able to make a chocolate souffle the first time you step into a kitchen. But I don't know. I get all bent out of shape about the weirdest things. Okay, say Mark. Yay! I thought Marco I'd agree with you. It takes a lot of practice. You can't expect too much of yourself. And I'm not saying to not expect a lot of yourself. You're amazing and you're more amazing than you think you are. But you can't expect to be amazing right out the gate at an activity. I mean, you're amazing if you get out of bed these days. I mean, that, okay, get out of bed, you get a gold star. Actually get out of pajamas and put on clothing, gold star. Okay, those things are all really hard right now for me. So you just need to cut yourself some grace. I was going to say give yourself extend grace or cut some slack, and it ended up being cut yourself some grace. So there you go. That's new for me. Hey, Knit Crochet Tiger, you were going to say your very first swatch. Pears are the worst fruit in the world. I do not like eating pears, but I do enjoy painting pears because they're lumpy. Pineapple is amazing. I would not paint a pineapple. There's too many details. You had your students do dishcloths? Yes. See, and I was thinking about dishcloths. The only thing about dishcloths, and I told you, I've been thinking about making a video on what should be your first project, and dishcloths are definitely something that I considered, but dishcloths are almost exclusively knit out of cotton. And asking a brand new knitter to knit with cotton for me is a little rough on the hands. Because it's just cotton is not one of the easiest fibers to handle. So that, because I think dishcloths are a great idea, but they're you don't want to make them out of wool and you don't want to make them out of acrylic because they don't dishcloth very well if you do that. So that was my sticking point with dishcloths, which is how I arrived at coasters. You owned your crappy stitches like your young kids' artwork. Exactly. That is it. That is it. Pineapples do bite your back, Abby. Talent takes work. Talent does take work. But it is worthwhile to do something that you enjoy, whether or not you have talent, is what I'm going to say. Is talent doesn't necessarily, if talent is your goal, more power to you. But talent doesn't have to be your goal. My painting, I'm painting pears. Is anybody going to buy my pear at an art fair? No, nobody's buying my pears. I don't have any desire to do that. I just want to have fun. And actually, I'm fighting this because the thing is it's really hard for me not to sit down and start doing this and looking at it and then thinking, how can I spin this into something that would be attractive to other people and might be able to be something that I could show in it? My brain, it spins that out. It spins out that monetizing or popularizing it, because that is what our society tells us to do. And I'm like, no, I just want to paint pears. I enjoy painting pears. And it's okay to have things that you're doing and doing badly. And there's a Kurt Vonnegut quote on it that you can find. I'm not saying anything new or reinventing any wheels. It's okay to do something badly just because you enjoy it. I mean, if I tried to play bass, I would probably suck at it. But if I enjoyed playing bass, I can continue to suck at it. It's not like the bass police are going to come get me. I mean, and I can continue to paint my pears and I can continue to do I trim my bushes and they don't look good. But hey, I didn't kill them. So and I meant there was no euphemism there. I'm talking about the bushes outside of my house. It's like, oh no, there are branches scratching that annoy me, so I'm cutting them off. It's not dead. Am I an arborist? No, but I no longer have scratchy branches. Um, find something that brings you joy and just do it. You don't have to. It's just like, if you like going out for a run, just go out for a run. You don't have to have the end goal is having a marathon. I need to run a marathon to be a legitimate runner. No, to be a legitimate runner, you got to put shoes on your feet and run outside. And some people don't even put on shoes. Just, I don't know. Sorry. Let's see what other people are saying. I need to interrupt myself. Okay, so you use superwash for the dishcloths. Okay, well, that'll work. Hadn't thought of that. I just automatically defaulted to cotton. Your little brother was a process knitter. You bought him a nice ball of yarn and he knit the same scarf over several times. He'd unravel it each time. He did it to me. I'm a process knitter. I mean, tell you, one of the hardest things I do is finish something, because once I've figured out the pattern and I know it's going to work, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm like, nope, move on to the next thing, because I am a process knitter. Um, Nick Crochet Tiger, would you paint sunflowers? You could paint sunflowers. Vinny Van Gogh hated painting sunflowers. He didn't find them to be challenging. So here's the thing. I'm not going to be painting sunflowers anytime soon. I know that a painted sunflower is not going to hurt me, but I'm not a hugest fan of sunflowers because they try to kill me. I'm allergic to them. Like like sunflower seeds, like anaphylactically will kill me. So sunflowers I just pretty much keep out of my life. And I just have like a distinct prejudice against that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty. Keep it away from me. I don't want them. Shamika, I learn a lot from these live streams and encourages me to keep knitting. I am so glad and thank you for saying that, because I feel like we've just been all over the place and not taught anything particularly significant in this live stream. But if you enjoy knitting, keep knitting. Did my answer to the big fat yarn help at all? I'm really curious to know what you're struggling with the chunky yarn, because it can be a pain. Okay. Going all over the place with Barbara. I am so. Oh, you know what? This is here. Look at this. I have no idea what this yarn is, which is why it will never become anything, because I lost the label. But this is my initial swatch for hurricane season. This is me doing the setup and a couple of repeats to make sure that my chart was going to work the way. And this is what it looks like in a solid color. Now it's just a small chunk of it. And as you can see, it's still attached. And this is really nice yarn. I really wish I knew what this yarn was, because it's fingering weight and it's kind of gold, and I'm pretty sure it has silk in it. It's got a shininess to it that I'm pretty sure is silk. I don't feel like setting it on fire right now, though. And it's a lot of it. But yeah, so that is what, when I'm figuring things out, I write out my chart and then I cast it on and I knit it until I know that I've done the repeat. You go through the first repeat, and then the important thing is when you do, like I do the setup And then I finish the first repeat of the pattern. And the important thing is when I start the second repeat, that I've gone back down to row 1, that everything lines up the way that it's supposed to line up, and the things keep going and stacking. I think of it as stacking the way it is supposed to. So that is the beginning of that particular, and literally it was sitting here and it had the needle in it, and I yanked the needle out of it and wound up the yarn, and I evacuated. Okay, so you were using the wrong size needles and not giving you, yes. It's gonna hurt your hands, and you need chonky ass needles. Isn't it a pretty color, Knit Crochet Tiger? I really wish I knew what it is, because I obviously thought at some point in time I might design something with it, but since I don't have the tag for it, I don't know what color it is, I don't know what brand it is, and as soon as I knit something in it and take a picture of it, people are gonna be like, "I wanna knit that. What color is it? Where'd it come from?" And they don't like being told no. Write your first sweater pattern. So, you know, Mark, that I don't design sweaters, so I am not a helpful person for this, but I do here. If you can find these in the library. Okay. So, this is when I pretended like I was going to design sweaters. This is the Knitwear Design Workshop by Shirley Payton, one of the greats in our industry. She is amazing. And this book has all kinds of really cool stuff in it. I don't know if it has the exact, but it's got, so this, Shirley Payton is amazing. And then there is this. This is a beginner's guide to writing knitting patterns, if you're trying to write the pattern. So, and this is Kate Atherley, the woman that I mentioned, who is stirring up a little bit of brouhaha on Threads. She is opinionated and amazing and talented and knows what she's doing. So this is also, I'm going to, because we do this here, I'm going to be brutally honest. I have not read this whole book. I admire and respect Kate. I have every confidence that this is a good book. I have not read it because I'm afraid if I read it, there's going to be stuff in it that tells me I'm doing it wrong. And I am too stubborn to change at this point. I have been writing patterns. I've published my first pattern in 2011. I've been writing patterns for well over a decade. I am too stubborn to make any major changes at this point. So I have not actually read through this whole book, but I admire and respect her, and she is well respected in the industry, and I have every confidence that it has a lot of stuff. So these are both excellent books. I'm confident that I have not used. Now, on the other, there are older books. You see, so, I thought I had it. That's Japanese. What is that? Ooh. I just found a book I forgot I had. I'm sure you're doing fine. We all knit your patterns. Well, thank you. Look at this. That's a cool book. When did I get this book? Ooh, 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 ooh. This is Shashiko. This is a traditional Japanese embroidery techniques. And this entire book is in Japanese. I'm pretty sure I bought it because I liked the pretty pictures. And it's got. So who knows? I thought this was something else. Dang it. I know that Elizabeth Zimmerman wrote a book on designing sweaters. There's something designed in plain English. Who wrote that one? Maggie Righetti. That is the one. So this is a very famous one. It's called Sweater Design in Plain English by Maggie Righetti. And that is a very famous one. But I think it is more geared towards just knitting your own sweater for yourself than knitting one that will eventually be graded into like a pattern, if that makes any sense. But I'm just gonna give you a link to it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is out of print. But you can buy, this says you can get a used copy of it for $25. But that is, I know it's famous. That you might actually be able to find at your local library. That definitely falls into that local library. And I know that Barbara Walker wrote one on, ooh, maybe that's where that is. Ah, I knocked over Riker. Okay, no, it's not up there. Ah, Riker has left the building. I know that Barbara Walker wrote a knitting in the round sweater design. Sally Mail, there's so many. There's so many. But Shirley Payton is amazing. And Bud wrote one. There's so many. Okay. But specific to writing the pattern, I don't know that anyone other than Kate Atherley has written a book on that. Oh, there. Robin McAllister said it, and Bud. I totally, he fell down, go boom. You can see he is tumped over behind the cats now. Okay. We have been talking for a long time, and I really appreciate all of y'all joining me. I missed you. I miss you. Oh, October was just mass chaos. And we're going into the holiday season, and December is actually going to be my son's 18th birthday. So I think we might be taking him and some of his friends go-karting. It might be what we've arrived at. So for us, we've got all the normal holiday stuff, plus my son's birthday on top of everything else. So it's going to be fun. But come see me in the Gift Along. I am a moderator. I have been a moderator of the Gift Along since the very first one. And I am in the hats thread because I've been a moderator for a very long time. The hats thread is one of the fastest moving threads because it's easy to make hats quickly, as opposed to the sweater thread, which does not move anywhere near as quickly because people don't make as many sweaters in a 1 month period. So thank you all so much for joining me. This is November. So this is the one for November. I don't know, maybe we'll switch to doing it earlier in the month. So here's a crazy question. Would y'all want to do more than one live a month? Because there are some people I know that really can't do a weeknight, and maybe we could do also a weekend of some sort. I don't know. I don't know if y'all want to see me twice a month. I don't know what all we would have to talk about. So Abba wants 2 lives. What are we going to talk about? If we're going to do 2 lives, y'all got to come up with more questions. Okay, just as long as it's not about pears. We can't have any questions about pears. Maybe I should design a shawl with a pear on it just for y'all. My favorite part of this whole thing is y'all over there talking to me and hyping me up. Yes, we talk about nonsense, and that is what Cabbages and Kings is. Cabbages and Kings. The point of Cabbages and Kings is the idea of talking about the time has come for us, my friend, to speak of many things, of sailing ships and sealing wax and cabbages and kings. It's about it is later found in other songs where they say fools and kings. It's about speaking about things that are foolish, cabbages, and things that are of more import, the kings, cabbages and kings. You can talk about both of those things. You can talk about nonsense. You can talk about importance. And it's just the people that you speak with are more important than what you're speaking about. So that's what cabbages and kings is. And I don't, yeah. Okay. My brain. Okay. I think I'm done. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you being here. If you haven't given me, if you're still in here and you haven't given me that little thumbs up thing, please do it just so, what's its face? YouTube knows that there are people who enjoyed this and maybe they might suggest it and we can have more fun people. Yes. Happy Turkey Days for those who Turkey Day. I think we might ham. I like getting honey baked ham because it requires a lot less effort on my part. And right now I'm in low effort land. And y'all have fun. We can continue to chat in the Facebook group. Don't ever hesitate to post something in the Facebook group if you have any questions, if you have anything you want to know, and make sure to watch out for Cabbages and Kings. Again, is technically going to go live on Tuesday, but you might want to wait until Thursday or Friday to see if you get the newsletter, and there will be a discount code in there. That's when I'm going to be promoting it. Ham is greater than turkey, Abby, especially honey baked ham. I love honey baked ham. Okay. Thank y'all very much. I need to push the button and end the stream, and I will see you again soon. Push this button here. And okay. Bye-bye, y'all.